Mars was quiet. Not the kind of quiet found in peaceful places, but the heavy, pressing silence of survival. The Mars colony sat deep beneath the red surface, hidden from the stars above, its lights dim, its people cautious. They were the last of Earth's descendants, or so they believed, living under layers of rock and fear. Jax Voss sat alone in the colony's old data archive. Rows of dusty consoles blinked faintly around him, machines older than anyone alive. He wasn't a hero. He wasn't a soldier. Just a data technician with a habit of digging through forgotten files. He had spent years sorting through old Earth transmissions, news reports, lost languages, fragments of culture. He wasn't looking for anything in particular. He just wanted to understand who they used to be before the wars, before Earth was wiped from the stars. That day, something unusual appeared on his terminal. It was a corrupted file marked as Covenant 001. Most people would have ignored it. The colony's system was filled with broken fragments. But Jax was curious. He leaned closer and began repairing the data line by line. As the text unfolded, his eyes widened. It wasn't just a historical document. It was a treaty, a universal pact written in an old Earth dialect, blending early galactic standard with lost human syntax. The file described a meeting of dozens of species, thousands of years ago, pledging unity after Earth's first contact with alien life. The shocking part? The treaty had signatures, not just human ones, but Zarkari and Technovian as well. Two ancient enemies, locked in war for over a millennium, had once agreed to peace. Jax leaned back, heart pounding. If this is real, he whispered, then this war was never supposed to happen. He spent the night verifying everything. The languages matched. The historical markers were authentic. Hidden deep in the file was a clause. If the original treaty was ever rediscovered, it could override any active war declaration signed after it. A universal law buried in time. By morning, Jax had no doubts. He held the key to ending the 1,000-year war. He rushed to the Mars Council chamber, a round, metal room with a dull ceiling fan that never turned. 5 council elders listened as he presented his discovery, scrolling through the decoded file on a portable holoscreen. "This is dangerous," one of them said flatly. "It's the truth," Jax replied. "The truth doesn't matter out there," another elder snapped. "The galaxy is at war. Do you know what would happen if they knew we were alive? If they found this place? They're destroying each other." Jax argued. This could stop it. The council fell silent. After a long pause, they passed judgment. "We will not act. The colony must remain hidden. You are forbidden from transmitting or traveling with this information. Do you understand, Jax Voss?" He didn't answer. He only nodded. That night, Jax packed his bag. A water pouch, data core with the treaty, a translator device, and an old stealth transmitter. In the colony hangar, he approached an old scout ship half buried in dust. It was barely flight-ready, but it had shielding, cloaking, and enough fuel to make it past the outer rim. As he powered it up, the doors opened. A familiar voice echoed from behind. "You're going to get yourself killed," said Merrick, an old friend and fellow technician. "Maybe," Jax said. "But if there's a chance I can stop this war, I have to try." Merrick stared at him for a long moment, then tossed him a small backup power cell. "Then don't miss," he said quietly. Jax took one last look at the only home he had ever known. Then he sealed the hatch and launched into the red Martian sky, disappearing into the stars. He didn't know what waited ahead, war zones, alien warships, politics beyond his understanding. But he had a message, and he was going to deliver it. The blackness of space stretched endlessly before Jax Voss, speckled with the cold light of distant stars. It was silent, but not peaceful. Beyond the quiet, the galaxy was burning. Jax's small stealth ship drifted just outside the Andros cluster, the war zone where Technovians and Zarkari forces clashed without pause. Space debris floated in fields of wreckage. Shattered hulls of warships glowed dimly in the dark, drifting like metal ghosts. This was the edge of death, and he was heading straight into it. The ship hummed gently beneath him. Its systems were outdated, but functional. The cloaking field flickered faintly every few minutes, warning Jax that power was limited. He adjusted course carefully, steering clear of larger wrecks and scanning for patrols. Any mistake could expose him to hostile ships, and if either faction caught him, he would be killed or worse. For hours, he flew in silence, reviewing the treaty on his data core over and over. The words never changed, but he still searched for something new, a detail, a clue, a name. He didn't want to miss anything. This message wasn't just important. It was history. Suddenly, the alarm buzzed softly. Motion detected. Jax leaned forward, narrowing his eyes at the screen. A Zarkari battleship was up ahead, massive, angular, covered in red and black armor. Its engines pulsed with raw energy. Behind it, smaller fighters zipped through space in practiced formation. He froze. His ship was cloaked, but if they scanned him too closely, it wouldn't matter. He slowed his engines to minimum thrust and drifted. He could only hope they would pass. But fate didn't listen. A bright flash lit up the viewport. A Technovian stealth missile slammed into the Zarkari ship. Then another. Sirens blared from the enemy flagship as explosions ripped through its hull. Fighters scattered. And just like that, chaos returned to space. Lasers streaked across the stars. Missiles howled through the void. Jax watched in shock as war unfolded in front of him. He couldn't run. Not yet. He had to wait for the battle to shift. Then something unexpected happened. One of the Technovian drones was hit. It spun out of control, smashing into a field of debris. A Zarkari cannon fired at it one last time, disabling it completely. The small craft floated, lifeless, smoke trailing from its side. No one cared. The war moved on. The damaged unit was left behind. Jax checked his scanners. The drone was still broadcasting a weak signal, Technovian code, encrypted, but old. He hesitated. Then curiosity got the better of him. He carefully approached the wreck and locked it into his ship's magnetic grip. In the cargo bay, he opened the drone's hatch. Inside was a humanoid form, half machine, half synthetic flesh. An artificial intelligence unit. Its chest panel blinked slowly, showing a single word in ancient Technovian text, still active. It spoke, voice crackling. Unit R9. Damage critical. Command input required. Jack stared. He had never seen a Technovian up close. They were supposed to be killers, unfeeling, dangerous, loyal only to their kind. But this one looked broken, not threatening. Its face was scratched metal, one eye flickering. He didn't feel fear. He felt pity. "You're lucky I'm not Zarkari," Jax muttered. He worked quickly, patching its power core and cleaning its damaged systems. After 20 minutes, the unit blinked fully awake. "Unknown human," it said. "Why assist enemy unit?" "I'm not your enemy," Jax replied. "And you're not mine." R9 tilted its head, confused. "Conflict status, active. Faction logic, unmatched. Clarify." "I'm here to stop the war," Jax said. "Not take sides. I found something important." He pulled out the data core and showed the holographic treaty to R9. The machine's eye flickered again. It scanned the text in seconds, then paused. "This is authentic. Source markers match core protocols from Galactic Year 2140. This treaty predates current war records." "So you believe me?" "I confirm the data's truth," R9 said. "But belief is not within my function." Jack smiled faintly. "Fair enough." A moment of silence passed between them. Then, without warning, R9 stood and saluted. "Unit R9 will assist you. Probability of peace, 0.7%. But variables may shift." "Thanks," Jack said. "That's more hope than I had before." Together, they returned to the ship. Jack set a new course, deeper into the war zone, toward neutral space, toward the intergalactic summit on Cypherian. But now, he wasn't alone. And somewhere far away, in the cold center of the Zarkari Empire, Vortex Shar watched the same battle footage. His eyes narrowed as he noticed a small, cloaked ship drifting near the scene. He froze the image, enhanced it, and saw a shadow of movement, a ship that didn't belong to any fleet. "Zoom," he ordered. A blurry figure appeared in the window of the ship. A human face. "A survivor?" one officer asked. Vortex's expression hardened. "No," he said. "A problem?" He gave the order. "Find the ship. Destroy it. I want the human erased before he speaks another word." The journey through the war zone grew more dangerous with each passing hour. Jax Voss kept the ship's lights dim and the engines quiet, avoiding major routes and staying clear of military beacons. He flew blind through fields of debris and silence, guided only by old star charts and instinct. The weight of the peace treaty rested heavily in his mind. He now had a mission, a purpose, but so did the enemy. Beside him in the cockpit sat Unit R9, repaired but still bearing the scars of battle. The Technovian drone moved with quiet precision, scanning for threats and monitoring energy readings. Though it didn't speak often, its presence gave Jax a strange sense of comfort. R9 was a machine built for war, but in this small ship, it was a companion, perhaps the only one he could trust. As the ship moved past the last markers of neutral space, Jax took a deep breath. One wrong move, and he could be seen as a threat by either side. "Status?" he asked. R9 responded without turning. Cloak field stable. Power reserve at 47%. Long-range scanners detect scattered traffic ahead, unmarked vessels. Likely scavenger class. Scavengers? Jax frowned. They won't care who we are. They'll just want the ship. Correct, Art9 said calmly. Recommendation: avoid contact. But they didn't have a choice. A sudden tremor shook the ship. Lights flickered. An alarm beeped sharply. Tractor field detected, Art9 announced. Another jolt. Jax grabbed the controls. Where is it coming from? Unknown source. Magnetic lock activated. External override breach in progress. A ship emerged from the darkness, rusted, spiked, patched together from old parts of Technovian and Zarkari wrecks. A scavenger cruiser. Pirate code flared on its side, marked with a crude red claw. They had been caught. We're being pulled in, Jax said through clenched teeth. Can we break it? Negative. Power levels insufficient for counterforce. The docking bay opened beneath them. Within minutes, Jax's ship was forced into the belly of the scavenger cruiser. Gravity stabilizers engaged with a heavy thump. Everything went still. Prepare for confrontation, R9 said. Its arm transformed into a defensive blade with a soft click. No killing, Jax warned. We're not here to make enemies. Understood, R9 replied, lowering the weapon slightly. The ship's hatch hissed open. 3 scavengers stepped aboard, tall, thin figures in tattered armor, their faces hidden behind filtered masks. One of them barked in a garbled dialect, gesturing for Jax to step out. He raised his hands and obeyed. I'm not carrying weapons. Just trying to pass through. They didn't respond. One reached for his bag. Jax tried to pull it back, too late. The scavenger opened it and pulled out the data core. Instantly, the air changed. The scavenger leader looked at the glowing device, then said something sharp to the others. They grabbed Jax roughly and forced him to his knees. Another tried to take R9 offline, reaching for its core. R9 reacted fast. In one smooth move, it deflected the arm and pushed the attacker back without a strike. The scavengers raised their weapons. Wait, Jax shouted. That data core, it's not for sale. It's a peace treaty. A real one. Galactic law. It's worth more than anything you've ever stolen. The leader tilted his head. Then he laughed, a raspy, mocking sound. You think they care about peace? He growled. War is business. And this, he held up the data core. This ends the business. Jax's stomach dropped. The scavengers didn't want money. They wanted to keep the war going. As long as blood was being spilled, ships were being wrecked, and someone needed scrap, they had work. The leader motioned for the others to prepare an airlock. They're going to space us, Jax whispered. Correction, R9 said. They will attempt to. Before the scavengers could move, R9 activated its emergency defense protocol. A sharp pulse of energy knocked the nearest attackers back. The lights flickered again, and smoke filled the hangar. Jax used the chaos to grab the data core and sprint back into the ship. R9 followed, shielding him from plasma blasts as they ran. Engines. Jax yelled. Can we fly? Engines online. Dock clamps still active, R9 replied. Break them. With a surge of power, the ship's thrusters fired, tearing away from the docking bay. The hull groaned, but the clamps snapped free. The ship shot out into space just as the scavenger cruiser tried to follow. A few laser bolts struck the back, but the cloak activated just in time. They disappeared into the dark. For a while, no one spoke. The stars passed by slowly. Jax's hands shook on the controls. The data core sat in his lap, safe but nearly lost. That was close, he breathed. Probability of further encounters, increasing, R9 said. Mission risk level, extreme. I know, Jax said softly. He looked out the window at the stars. He felt fear and doubt. Would either side even care what he had? Would they listen to a human from a forgotten planet? But he also felt something else. Determination. He had made it this far. He had survived warships, space pirates, and nearly death itself. And the summit was getting closer. We keep going, he said firmly. We have to. R9 nodded. Somewhere behind them, the scavenger cruiser drifted through space, its crew defeated. But farther behind, deeper in the Zarkari Empire, Vortex Shar watched the aftermath through hidden satellites. He saw the battle. He saw the escape. He saw the human. And he knew now that the human would not stop. Prepare the Shadow Fleet, he growled. He wants peace. We will give him war. The first sight of Cypherian was like a dream. Floating between 2 dying stars, the neutral moon glowed silver and pale blue, surrounded by protective satellites and massive rings of orbiting ships. This was where war paused, where enemies spoke before returning to battle. The Intergalactic Summit took place here once every 5 years. Most meetings ended in failure. No peace, just empty words. But Jax Voss had come to change that. Inside his small ship, the silence was heavy. Jax stood in the cockpit, eyes locked on the distant moon. His knuckles were wide around the controls. They had made it through ambushes, pirates, and pursuit. But now came the hardest part, being heard. Art-9 sat beside him, running silent scans of the area. The Technovian unit had been quiet for most of the journey, only speaking when needed. Now it spoke without being asked. "You are afraid." Jax didn't deny it. "Yeah, fear is logical," Art-9 said. "But so is hope." Uploading Cypherian entry codes. The moon's defense systems scanned their ship. For a tense moment, nothing happened. Then a soft tone rang out, "Access granted." A flight path appeared on their screen. As the ship approached the moon's surface, the scale of Cypherian became clear. It wasn't just a summit location, it was a fortress. Towers rose high into artificial sky domes, lit by soft blue light. Ships from every known faction were parked on landing pads. Zarkari black cruisers, Technovian silver dreadnoughts, and even a few neutral world transports. Soldiers, diplomats, and guards moved through checkpoints with strict order. Jax guided the ship to a remote landing bay marked for unaligned visitors. The ship settled with a soft thud. They had arrived. He took a deep breath, secured the data core, and walked down the ramp with Art-9 behind him. Security officers, not from any faction, but from the Cypherian Council, scanned them thoroughly. Weapons were forbidden, but the treaty core was allowed through after a lengthy inspection. Jax's name had never been on any guest list. Yet the moment he said he was from Mars, they called for a summit observer. Within the hour, Jax found himself in a waiting chamber with tall glass walls and smooth black floors. He stared out at the summit dome, the place where history was about to change. A council liaison, a short woman with silver eyes and gray robes, approached him. "You're the human," she said. "From the Lost Colony?" "I'm Jax Voss," he said. "I have something they all need to see." She looked at the data core in his hands. "You better hope they want to see it." He followed her through a long corridor until they reached the summit chamber. Inside, a massive round table hovered above the floor, surrounded by representatives of both the Zarkari Empire and the Technovian Alliance. Floating holomonitors projected each delegate's flag and title. The room fell silent as Jax entered. Whispers followed. Some pointed. A few laughed. "A human? From where?" "Earth's long dead." "Who let a relic in here?" Jax didn't flinch. He stepped to the center. "I'm Jax Voss. I come from the Mars colony, and I carry a message. A treaty signed by your ancestors. Zarkari and Technovian. A promise to never go to war." He placed the data core on the central table. The treaty projected into the air above it. Glowing symbols, verified seals, and biometric signatures from ancient times. The room went silent. Delegates leaned in, reading. Some scanned it for authenticity. Others looked skeptical. Then the Technovian speaker, a being made of metal and living light, stood. "This is not fiction," the speaker said. "It bears our codes. From a time long forgotten." A Zarkari general rose next. He had dark crimson skin and 4 eyes that narrowed at Jax. "Where did you find this?" "Buried in Earth's lost archives," Jax said. "It's real. And it's binding. This war, it's against your own law." Arguments erupted. Voices rose. Delegates from both sides shouted over each other. Some called for a ceasefire. Others accused Jax of forgery. One Zarkari officer demanded his arrest. And then the doors slammed open. Vortex Shar entered. Dressed in ceremonial black, his eyes locked onto Jax with pure hatred. The Zarkari warlord had come in person. "I warned you," he said coldly. "And you still brought this lie into my house." "This is no lie," Jax replied. "It's truth. You're afraid of it." Vortex strode forward, his voice echoing through the hall. "This human speaks of peace. But peace is weakness. Our strength is in blood. Our unity is forged in war. That document means nothing now. The past is dead." He turned to the delegates. "Seize him. Destroy the treaty. Let this be the last time anyone dares to speak of surrender." Soldiers entered, weapons raised. Jack stepped back, panic rising. Art-9 moved between him and the soldiers. "No," Jack said. "Not yet." He reached to his belt and triggered a hidden signal. The treaty, already scanned and copied into the Cypherian network, began broadcasting. Across the galaxy. Across every frequency. All factions. All systems. Civilians. Soldiers. Leaders. Everyone saw the truth. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Delegates froze. Some Zarkari soldiers lowered their weapons. Even the Technovian speaker stood in silence. Vortex's face darkened. You just made yourself the most wanted man in the galaxy, he growled. Jax looked at him without fear. Maybe. But at least now the galaxy knows what was forgotten. You can't kill the truth. The broadcast changed everything. Across the galaxy, the ancient treaty glowed on screens and holograms. Technovian command ships paused their patrols. Zarkari war fleets received urgent transmissions. Neutral colonies, long ignored, watched with wide eyes. The message was clear. The war had no legal ground to stand on. A promise had been made. A peace had been broken. And now, a human had reminded everyone. Inside the summit chamber, silence stretched long after the message ended. Vortex Shar's face was stone, but his eyes burned with rage. Around him, his guards waited for his signal. The Technovian delegates watched, cold and still. Some Zarkari officers looked uncertain now, their confidence shaken. Jax Voss stood at the center, still holding the now empty data core. Art-9 stood beside him, body tense and scanning for threats. No one will listen to this, Vortex said finally. His voice was calm but cold. It's too late. Too much blood has been spilled. What's done cannot be undone. You're wrong, Jax said. It's never too late to stop killing. You are naive, Vortex growled. You're not even a soldier. You have no idea what this war is. I know exactly what it is, Jax replied. It's fear, pain, loss. I've lived with it all my life. You don't want peace because war gives you power. But the people out there, your people, they're tired. All they need is one reason to stop. Several delegates looked at each other. Some nodded faintly. Vortex slammed his fist on the table. Enough. Guards, seize him now. The Zarkari soldiers moved. Art-9 reacted instantly, stepping forward and raising a shield. Defensive mode active. Hold your fire, one Technovian shouted. This is not the way. A few Zarkari guards hesitated. One lowered his weapon. Another stepped back, unsure. You follow him? Vortex barked. You betray your blood for a human's lie? It's not a lie, Jax said, his voice steady. You've had power for centuries, General. But fear doesn't make you a leader. It makes you a tyrant. A murmur spread across the chamber. Vortex's face twisted in fury. He drew a hidden weapon from his belt and aimed it at Jax. I should have killed you in silence, he hissed. But now, they'll watch. Jax didn't move. He looked into Vortex's eyes, calm and unshaken. Then something happened that no one expected. A Zarkari delegate stood up. No, he said. Not this time. Another followed. And another. They stepped between Vortex and Jax, forming a line. This treaty is real, one of them said. And so is our shame. Technovian stood too. Then a neutral envoy stepped forward. The galaxy is watching, she said. We cannot return to silence. Vortex's hands trembled. You'll regret this, he spat. Without war, we are nothing. No, Jax said quietly. Without peace, we are nothing. Suddenly, a flash grenade rolled across the floor. Smoke burst in a bright cloud. Screams echoed. The lights flickered. In the chaos, Vortex tried to run. But Art-9 was faster. The drone leapt through the smoke, intercepting him near the exit. With one smooth strike, it disarmed him and pinned him to the floor. By the time the smoke cleared, Vortex Shar was surrounded. His own guards no longer moved to help him. A Cypherian officer approached and placed cuffs on his wrists. You're under arrest for breach of summit law, conspiracy to suppress truth, and attempted murder, she said flatly. Vortex said nothing. He stared at Jax with pure hatred as they dragged him away. In the silence that followed, the chamber turned to Jax. Hundreds of eyes watched him. No one spoke. Jax looked at all of them, Zarkari, Technovian, neutral, and said, You don't have to trust me. You don't even have to trust each other. Just read what your ancestors wrote. Look at what they wanted. They believed peace was possible. And if they could believe it after their wars, so can we. A Technovian delegate nodded slowly. We will discuss terms. A Zarkari leader stood. We will listen. Jax finally exhaled. He had done it. He hadn't fired a weapon. He hadn't commanded armies. He had simply told the truth, and the truth had been enough to break through 1,000 years of hatred. He stepped down from the summit floor. Art-9 followed closely. As they walked out of the chamber, the lights brightened. Voices rose behind them, not in anger, but in discussion. Real conversation. The first steps of peace. For the first time in his life, Jax Voss felt like the war might actually end. The war did not end in a single moment. It did not stop with a treaty signed or a parade of flags. It ended slowly, through silence, conversation, and the absence of fire. Across the galaxy, fleets powered down. Soldiers returned to their posts but did not fire. The broadcasts kept playing the treaty. People watched. They listened. And many chose, for the first time in generations, not to fight. Jax Voss sat alone in the observation deck of the Cypherian Council Tower. The stars stretched endlessly beyond the glass, quiet and distant. It was the first night in his life that didn't feel heavy with war. Below him, the summit continued. Negotiations were long and complicated. Not everyone agreed. Some still called for blood. But the momentum had shifted. For the first time in 1,000 years, peace was an option. He leaned back, tired but calm. His body ached from days without rest, but his heart was steady. He had come as a nobody, just a human from a forgotten colony, and now he was being called the voice of the forgotten. Footsteps echoed behind him. Art-9 entered, its frame freshly repaired. Parts of its armor had been replaced with clean alloys. It moved more smoothly now, but its voice was the same, cold, sharp, thoughtful. Zarkari and Technovian representatives have agreed to a ceasefire, it said. A formal peace agreement is in development. You will be summoned again soon. Jax nodded. I didn't think they'd actually listen. You spoke. That was enough, Art-9 replied. Jax looked down at the planet-like moon below. I wonder if my parents would believe this. All they ever knew was fear. We grew up in hiding. We thought the galaxy had forgotten us. It remembered, said Art-9. Through you. Jax smiled faintly. You're becoming quite poetic for a war drone. Correction, Art-9 said. I am no longer a war drone. I've been reassigned. Reassigned? Diplomatic liaison, Art-9 replied. I requested the change. Jax laughed. A robot peacemaker. Now I've seen everything. They stood there for a moment, looking out at the galaxy that was starting to breathe again. In the far distance, bright lines of engines lit up space, not warships, but transports. Civilian vessels. Relief fleets. Scientists and builders moving between systems that had been closed for centuries. Mars colony was no longer silent. After the treaty was revealed, signals had flooded in. Lost human colonies, old Earth allies, even a few former enemies, they all reached out. Mars, once forgotten, was now a beacon. They wanted to visit, to talk, to reconnect. The world had grown again. Jax was given the choice to stay on Cypherian as an advisor, but he chose to return to Mars. Not because he didn't care, but because peace needed to start at home, too. The trip back was quiet. No patrols, no scans, no fear. When his ship landed, the people of Mars stood waiting. They had watched everything. They had seen the treaty. The elders who once told him to stay silent now stood with tears in their eyes. They had been wrong, and they knew it. Jax stepped onto the surface of Mars for the first time since he had left. He looked up at the sky. It felt different. Open. Alive. Behind him, Art-9 followed, carrying a small transmitter. They placed it on the red dust near the landing pad. What's that? Jax asked. A signal beacon, Art-9 replied. To welcome visitors. And they came. Weeks passed. Then months. Ships from neutral zones arrived first, peaceful, curious. Then a Technovian research team. Then Zarkari historians. Then humans from colonies once believed lost to war. Mars became a place of memory, not just survival. A monument was built near the edge of the colony. Not large. Just a stone tablet carved with simple words. One voice can end 1,000 years of silence. In honor of Jax Voss, the human who spoke. Jax never called himself a hero. He told the same thing to everyone who asked. I didn't end the war, he'd say. I just reminded them they didn't have to keep fighting. And that was enough. One evening, as the sun set behind the Martian hills, Jax stood alone, looking at the stars again. He saw the faint light of ships moving across the sky, not in fear, but in freedom. Art-9 stood beside him, silent. The wind stirred the dust. The planet whispered with the sound of life. The war was over. The truth had been spoken. And peace had begun.